Hello beautifuls, this is Aromie here. Welcome back to Seduce Me Too. So Matthew is heading to training right now, and it's kind of weird because he did not sleep at all at night, and that sucks. I suddenly shook my head trying to take in what he just said. He was going to training now? I looked at him as he began to turn around, holding out an arm for him. Whoa. Hold on there.
Bye!
Alright. Despite my protest, Matthew left the room, practically skipping out of it. What the hell? Something was now definitely wrong. I lowered my plate and stood, racing towards the door, but was stopped by Diana, who was about to step in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Diana looked me up and down before looking at the plate of food I had left on my bed, and looking at the plates of food she had in her hand, obviously meant for me and Matthew.
When did you...
I shook my head. Diana didn't know Matthew was making me food. I became more and more worried. Diana stepped in and placed her plates on the nearby table, crossing her arms in concern.
All right. Do you now wish to tell me what is going on?
I naturally bit my lip. I couldn't tell her, but something about this warning me that whatever was influencing Matthew could have gotten worse. I began to internally panic, but I kept a look of calm on my face. Matthew just made me breakfast, that's all.
When was this?
I grimaced, looking away. Apparently this morning? Diana shook her head and pressed her fingers into her temples, slowly exhaling an irritated sigh.
That boy is seriously concerning me now.
Don't call him a boy or say nothing. Don't call him a boy. I didn't mean to explode, but after hearing Matthew's worries the night before, I couldn't help but naturally defend him. Diana stared wide-eyed at me, most likely wondering where my sudden outburst came from. Even though I had vocally challenged her, Diana let out a sigh and crossed her arms.
Regardless, I'll have people watch over him. If he does anything out of the ordinary, I will be the first to know.
Alright. Diana gave me a hard stare for a moment before turning and leaving the room. I became torn. Matthew didn't want help, but it seemed like he very much needed it. What if this was all something I was overreacting from? What if he was hiding something vitally important? I gripped my head and shook it. Stop it. Calm down. That's right, I had to calm down first. This wasn't going to be easy, but the truth would come out one way or another. I ate my food and prepared for the day, praying that I would not hear of Matthew killing someone. As I arrived in the hall for training, I was surprised to see Diana in the room instead of Cero. Diana? Diana turned to me and crossed her arms, taking in my form.
You will be training with me today. I apologize for Cero's absence.
What do you mean? Where is Cero?
He asked to train on his own for the day. As he will be in the front lines of the siege, I granted him permission.
Alright. I pressed my lips together into a fine line but nodded. If he was charging at the front, then it made sense that he'd want to take a day and work on himself. I held my hand out and summoned my weapons, ready to fight the Queen of Rebellion head on. Alright, then don't hold back. Diana nodded and prepped her stance, summoning her saber and bringing it back behind her. I had to use this new training partner as a new experience. Not everyone would fight like Cero, so this was a good challenge for me. Fighting with Diana was no easy task. She was quick and thought 10 steps ahead of me, catching me off guard at some point. Still, I could tell that I was putting up a good fight with my defense. What surprised me was how time passed by without me even noticing it. The more I clashed with Diana, the more ignorant I became of the sky's eventual descent from light purple to dark orange. Soon enough, our training had ended. I panted out of breath but surprisingly still on my feet. I didn't understand how or why, but I could only assume that I was getting better, which was a good thing. Diana smirked as she relaxed, stretching back and making her saber vanish.
I will admit, dear, you've done well for just a handful of days.
I grinned, happy to hear that I had impressed Diana with my skills. I only trained for a couple days, but showed great improvement. Maybe the demon world was aiding me in becoming a stronger person. Thank you, Diana. Diana nodded before walking to the exit of the room.
Now, please excuse me. I must see to the boys. You are free to come with if you'd like.
I declined and left the room as well towards the opposite direction, feeling my bed calling to me. Besides, I didn't want to be a distraction. I quickly walked to my room, wanting to make it there before Matthew. As I turned the corner to the hall, my room was in. However, a large number of shouts echoed.
Grab him! Don't let him get away!
Let go of me!
Hello? I stared wide-eyed as guards rushed into my bedroom and dragged Matthew out of it by his arms. I was even more surprised to see him slightly battered and covered in blood. What? I took a step forward to rush in and to see what was going on, but a hand stopped me and pulled me back. I looked over and stared as Sam gripped my shoulder, glaring ahead at his brother. Sam, what's going on?
Matthew did something really fucking stupid.
Ripping Sam's hand from my shoulder, I turned around and glared, almost snarling in anger. What do you mean? What did he do? Sam looked at me, unfazed by my anger, and walked forward ahead of me. Following the group of soldiers and Matthew down the hall, I did the same, now desperate to know what was going on. As we arrived at the Great Hall, Matthew was tossed into the center of the room, where Rabbit had constructed a large magic circle. As Matthew fell to his hands and knees on it, the circle activated and formed a large barrier around him. Frantic, Matthew rushed at the wall, slamming into them to hopefully be set free. He even formed multiple knives and tried to tear through the walls, only ending up with a ricocheting and landing on the floor.
Release me! No!
Matthew! I rushed forward, trying to touch the barrier, but was forcefully pulled back by Irene and Iridessa. I floated in their arms, struggling against their hold, but became still as Diana entered the room with a large bloody handkerchief in her hand.
You come into my castle, eat my food, rest in my rooms, and have the utter gall to kill one of my guards and try to steal war plans?
What? No, it couldn't have been. I stared at Matthew as he locked eyes with Diana, sneering and pressing up against the barrier.
Well. If it isn't the Queen of the Rebellion. I gotta tell you, you look like crap after all these years.
Diana's face remained stone cold as she passed the handkerchief to one of the nearby guards, stepping forward, pressing her hand to the barrier.
Lux.
On her word, the barrier suddenly became to brighten the lightning, shocking Matthew within it. Matthew, what's going? Well, I think Diana's trying to calm Matthew's inner mom inside of him. I began to struggle more, wanting this to stop. Soon enough it did, as Diana pulled her hand away from the barrier and glared into it. Matthew, having been electrocuted, fell to his hands and knees, panting wildly.
I can smell you, Demon Lord.
I froze. The Demon Lord. He was behind this? I thought it was his mother, but the Demon Lord? I looked back at Matthew, seeing him chuckle despite being in utter pain.
You figured me out, huh? You may have locked me away in my castle, but my bond to my blood is unbreakable.
Matthew pounced off of the ground and slammed into the barrier wall, grinning from ear to ear at Diana.
And when you come, I will be ready. I know all of your little plans, and will make sure that I completely destroy your precious army, one pathetic soldier at a time. Once I do, I'll make Zakeru my heir, and finally take over the rest of this godforsaken plane, for good.
This time, however, Diana smirked and tapped the barrier between Matthew's eyes, her irises brightening to a sadistic gold color. So, is it the Demon Lord inside of Matthew, not his mom? I'm confused.
And this is where you fail in war, Demon Lord. Who said we ever wrote anything down about our plans?
Matthew stared astonished at Diana before snarling madly.
You're lying!
Test me, mongrel. I will prove it on the day we lay siege upon your pathetic castle and dominate your puny army.
Despite how twisted the situation was, the rebel leaders and guards in the room began to nod and smirk at Matthew in agreement with Diana's words. Diana, however, pressed her face against the barrier.
And I swear to you, this war will end with you dying by the hands of a succubus.
The guards around Diana cheered as Matthew continued to glare hard at Diana, clawing at the barrier wall to try and get to her to no avail. Diana straightened back up and scoffed.
As for your son, we'll need to do a little surgery.
Surgery? I pulled at Irene's and Iridessa's hands, staring at Diana like she was a mad woman. Surgery? What the hell did she mean? Without another word, Diana placed her hand on the barrier and sent another wave of electric shocks into the barrier before Matthew finally passed out entirely. What? At last, Iridessa and Irene released me, letting me rush forward and kneel at the barrier, pressing my hand against it and peering in it to see Matthew lying unconscious on the floor. I looked up at Diana as she turned and glared at her. Why did you do that? Diana glared back at me before turning away from me, crossing her arms.
Why did you hide this from me?
No, I deserve an explanation. As Diana turned back to me at my explosion, I felt my body instantly froze in fear underneath her sudden golden gaze.
And one of my men deserves not to be dead. Because of your little secret, this boy managed to lose control to whatever has been possessing him and killed one of my top-ranking officers in order to find my decoy battle plans.
One of your top rank officers? Obviously he's not top rank if he got killed. I let it sink in. Matthew had killed someone. The influence on him really forced him to kill someone. I couldn't believe it. As Diana released me from her enthrallment, I buckled to my hands and knees, panting for air.
Was hiding this worth it? Was his precious pride truly worth the life of one of my men?
I shut my eyes, knowing how wrong this situation was. Matthew was trying. He was fighting to stop whatever was taking control of him. He needed to do it on his own. However, before I could think of speaking back, James and Sam stepped forward in front of me, blocking me from Diana.
Give him Diana. He wasn't in control of himself.
And now you're defending him?
Shut the fuck up! You don't understand what he's been through.
And I don't care! One of my men is dead because of him! Controlled or not, it was his hands that took his life. No amount of pride can justify that.
The brothers silenced themselves as I took everything in. Matthew had killed someone, the brothers understood, and Diana had essentially been betrayed. Part of me screamed that this was all my fault. I didn't open my mouth to fix this. I didn't let anyone know what Matthew was going through. However, Matthew was desperate to do this himself, even though he failed in the end. I lowered my head to the ground, gritting my teeth and trying to stop myself from crying. Carrie and Twila, Carrie, pretty sure, and Twila rushed to my side, wrapping their arms over me in an attempt to comfort me, but I couldn't feel anything but despair for what was going on. No, we're not gonna apologize, cause... No. Despite everything, however, it was my choice. I trusted Matthew and I wanted to help him in any way I could. He was a man I loved, and if I didn't trust him, then I truly couldn't deserve his love. I gripped the ground and glared up once more at Diana, seeing her stare down at me in expectancy. I'm sorry for what happened, but I am not sorry for hiding it. I felt her glare slightly at me, but I let the feeling roll off my back. I hid it because I loved him and believed in him. This was a terrible circumstance, but I had to try and believe him. Matthew wanted to be self-reliant. He wanted to stop having his brothers come and rescue him, and if you can't see why he needed to do that, then you need to open your eyes. Silence lingered in the room as Diana continued to bore her eyes into my soul. At last, Diana let out an irritated sigh.
Enough. We need to figure out how to break this hold the Demon Lord has on him.
Everyone in the room seemed to agree. I rubbed my face and slowly stood, agreeing as well, and now ready to fix what had happened. Diana looked to the guards over her shoulders and barked orders.
A chair, a bucket of sweet flowers, and a knife.
Sweet flowers. The soldiers nodded and saluted their queen before rushing off. Diana shook her head and placed her hand on the barrier.
What on earth could have made the control so strong?
His mother.
Everyone looked to Damien, seeing him look intensely at his fallen brother with worry.
I can hear her voice, pleading with him to wake up. She keeps apologizing for making him do what he did.
So his mother is to blame?
No. The Demon Lord is still the one who made him do what he did. The mother was a weakness of his, and only amplified his control.
Well, that stinks. Diana sneered at Matthew's unconscious body as the soldiers from before rushed in and placed their chairs beside her, and the bucket beside it. Diana slowly sat down and crossed her legs, holding out her hand and feeling a knife being placed into it by a third guard.
We need to figure out how to block his mind from the Demon Lord's control. Once we do that, we can try to dispel it, while the Demon Lord's power isn't using Matthew's energy.
Taking a purple peach-shaped fruit from the large basket, Diana began to peel it and slice it open, revealing a black center. However, her focus remained on Matthew.
It will take me some time, but I think I can manage it.
Are you sure?
I am. Everyone may go and sleep.
Everyone slowly nodded and began to leave the room. I, however, stood still, not wanting to leave Matthew alone. As Diana noticed me, she glared softly.
Go to your room and rest. I will call you if something happens.
Her words were venomous, warning me of the thin line I was walking across. As she placed the fruit slice in her mouth, I conceded defeat and left the room, staring at Matthew in utter worry before I exited. That night I slept alone. I was filled with different emotions: worry, sadness, anger, betrayal, horror. Everything mixed and danced within me as I let out a heavy sigh. This would be a long night. I was barely able to eat or leave my room the following 2 days. I stayed in my room trying to calm down and take everything in. Matthew was a prisoner, and Diana had to pull the control out of him somehow. How she was going to do that, I couldn't be sure, but I was certain that this was going to be a large challenge, especially since the Demon Lord was involved. The other wives visited me, helping me eat and go through what I had trained. However, my mind focused on Matthew. I was worried sick for him. I wanted him to be free and I wanted him to be okay. I knew that this wasn't the case for the moment, but I knew that it had to happen eventually. After all, we were a day away from marching to the siege. I gripped my hair and closed my eyes, trying to remember if there was anything I did to help stop the control. I was there for him, but it slowly dawned on me. I was there for him. His love for me was what kept him focused. I was there each time he lost control, and I managed to bring him down from that. It was something, a risky something, but something nonetheless. I rushed out of the room and into the grand hall, seeing Diana continue to stare into the barrier. Inside, however, was Matthew sitting cross-legged and smirking at Diana. Matthew! Diana and Matthew looked over at me, surprised to see me enter.
Human, what are you?
I ignored Diana and continued forward, standing in front of the barrier and staring into Matthew's eyes. Matthew, it's me. Wake up and get a hold of yourself. Matthew stared in shock at me before smirking, crawling over with a pout.
Aw, is the little human upset that she can't get fucked by her incubus?
No. That's pretty awkward to hear, too. I had to ignore him. The Demon Lord was taunting me, tempting me to get angry. Still, I concentrated on Matthew's eyes, knowing Matthew was in there somewhere. Matthew, I know you're there. You can fight this. I know you can. I could see a small glimmer in Matthew's eyes, proving that I was right. I smiled and pressed my hand against the wall of the barrier, trying to press myself against the magic blocking Matthew from me. Listen to me. You can stop this. You can do this yourself. I began to fill with hope. Despite my words also reaching the Demon Lord, Matthew was also listening, and I could only hope that my love was fueling his need to stop his father's control. The barrier beneath my hand slowly began to de-solidify as my body slowly pressed into the wall and suddenly barrel rolled inside.
No!
The fuck? Am I inside it now? I looked up, finding myself inside the barrier somehow, looking around and seeing Matthew staring at me intensely. I gulped, knowing that the Demon Lord was still there, running Matthew's every movement, every word that ran from his lips. Still, I believed in him. I slowly stood up and walked over, opening my arms for him. Matthew, I love you and I'm here for you. Please break through this and come back to me. Slowly, Matthew walked forward, shakily reached out his hands for me. I could see the desperation in his eyes as he tried to listen. Yes, that was it. I walked forward and held his hand before feeling them slide up to my cheeks, warming my face with his palms.
Ew.
Uh-oh. For a moment, a glimmer of his blue eyes filled my heart with joy. I gripped his hands, desperate for him to hang on and fight. Finally, Matthew gritted his teeth and released my face, gripping his head.
Get out of my head!
Matthew! I rushed over, wrapping my arm around his back as Matthew sank to his knees, digging his fingers into his hair. I could hear Diana trying to see what was going on, but my body managed to block her view. Matthew looked up at the wall and snarled.
Get out!
Matthew shouted at the sky, arching back and releasing a large red wave of energy from its body. It zipped into the air and broke free of the barrier, circling over the ceiling like a thundercloud. In quick response, Diana pointed her hands out and formed a large purple orb in her hand before tossing it at the energy, capturing it in another cage and letting it hit the ground, locked inside. My focus, however, was on Matthew. He panted and coughed, clasping over his neck and chest in pain as he shut his eyes tightly. I barely noticed the sound of Matthew's brothers and their wives running in to see what had happened. I lifted Matthew in my arms. I lifted Matthew in my arms and caught his eyes as he opened them, seeing the man I loved once again back in my arms. Matthew very slowly let a grin run across his face as he lifted a hand and cupped my cheek.
Hey, beautiful.
Aww. Aww. My breath hitched as I quickly fell forward and wrapped my arms around Matthew. Caring that the barrier around us was slowly being dispelled by Diana, Matthew wrapped his arms around my form, hugging me tightly and kissing over my neck.
Thank you.
No, he sounds so, weak. Weak and adorable. It's kind of sad, actually. You're welcome. The moment seemed to last forever, a private world with me and Matthew in each other's arms. Desperate not to let go, however, Diana's voice caused us to slowly separate and look up at her.
Not that I care that I am breaking this moment apart, but we have more important things to do than this.
Diana rolled her eyes and took up the orb that held the Demon Lord's control, staring into it with a piercing gaze.
I will take care of this. but I'm positive that this is not all of it. After all, he did control you enough to kill.
I felt myself slump over. She really wasn't going to forgive him. But she was right. The Demon Lord's control was ultra powerful. Who knew how much control he really had? And this is where we are going to stop for today. I'm very content with... I feel like Matthew's storyline has already beat Damien's storyline. That's what I think. Because I felt like in Damien's storyline, there wasn't enough Damien in it. I felt like I was more of basically learning about the other couples. So I wasn't really happy with that. But this route, we're actually learning more. Or more action with Matthew. So I feel like Matthew has already topped Damien's. But we haven't played anybody else's route. So that could also change. But thank you guys for watching. Stay beautiful. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.